In my view, this is the most significant piece of legislation passed for working families in many, many decades. It is an historic bill.
A lot of Democrats are calling this the,
quote, the most progressive domestic legislation in a generation.
This week I want to talk a little bit about what they mean when they say that. The things that got a lot of attention in this bill are sort of in two baskets. The things that are going to attack the actual pandemic, and then stuff that attacked the immediate economic crisis. The fact that the minimum wage did not make it into the final bill also gotten a lot of attention. You know, with these big pieces of legislation, it's usually a case of the squeaky wheel gets the oil. And the squeaky wheel in the COVID relief bill was the minimum wage. And in my view, overshadowed a lot of other things in this bill. Progressives might owe Joe Manchin a little bit of credit because he spent so much time focused on one piece of policy that in the end, there's a core set of progressive policies that Democrats have been championing and working on for years now that are in the American Rescue Plan that did not meet much resistance at all. So I'm going to break down big policies in this package that got overlooked as we were covering it in real time. And the first is a big expansion of the earned income tax credit. It is targeted towards childless adults. There's lots of help in the tax code for people with kids, and we'll get to that in a second. It has generally had bipartisan support, but Democrats have frequently been in favor of a more generous version than Republicans. We are in this interesting phase in American politics where expansion of government assistance is no longer Democrats for and Republicans completely against. On a lot of these key policies, especially ones that are targeted towards the poor and working class, you're seeing Republicans motivated to step up and at least have an alternative. The next policy that didn't get much attention is probably the one that progressive policy wonks are the most excited about, and that is the child tax credit. This is essentially direct government payments to poor and working class. They will get $300 per child per month that the IRS will just drop in to their checking account. This bill both expands the CTC, but also changes the mechanism. And so rather than waiting to the end of the year to benefit from this, it will be a monthly payment. It has a ton of research behind it and is essentially very similar to a universal basic income that people like Andrew Yang have been talking about. It sounds simple, but there's been a lot of resistance to this kind of policy for a long time because it's considered, just welfare. So you're going to hear a lot of talk about the CTC in the coming months from Democrats because this bill only does a temporary expansion. It's scheduled to phase out, and Democrats will start to fight to make it permanent. A third change to the tax code that is meant to help families struggling with the economic fallout from the pandemic is a boost to a part of the tax code that helps pay for childcare expenses. A lot of Americans have kids at home. They're spending a lot more on childcare, and there is an expansion of that assistance in this bill. The fourth policy in this bill that just has not received as much attention, but that is a huge victory for progressives, is a big boost to Obamacare. Now, this was justified as something that the stimulus bill should have because people are struggling to pay bills, they're struggling to afford health insurance. So there is a big increase in government subsidies for Americans to buy private health insurance on the Obamacare exchanges that are run by the states. Additionally, there is a part of the bill that will expand Medicaid. It's sort of shocking that we barely heard anything about this part of the bill, considering what a lightning rod Obamacare has been to Republicans for a decade now. Biden and the White House decided to use a 50-vote maneuver in the Senate, and that allowed them to keep the original package intact and just occasionally have to cater to the whims of a couple of centrists. At the end of the day, they didn't really change it very much. This bill is much more from the pen of Bernie Sanders than it is from the pen of Joe Manchin.